Great. So I think we are pretty much set up. And thank you so much for coming in today. And congratulations on all the success over these years. And it's a total honor and pride to have you a part of the Global Icon too, Michèle.
Thank you, Ashish. I'm so happy to be here. It's a wonderful, wonderful project that you have created. You've worked so hard, and I'm very excited to be part of it.
Oh, no, it's taken a few years in the making. And so we say that we are building this aircraft as it flies. So I think that journey is going to be really fun, especially in the first season. So really looking forward to it. So wanted to start with, to understand, okay, firstly, where you're from and this interest in music. Where did this all begin?
Well, I'm from New York City originally. I grew up in Queens, New York. And I've always known since I'm a baby that I wanted to make music. So it came from the womb, I suppose. Yeah, my grandmother was a child star in the Yiddish Jewish theater. And my mother sang, and I always wanted to be involved in music. Excellent. And we have a little phantom in here. There's two of me.
So here
how funny is that?
Yes, while we figure out the digital magic, hold back.
Very funny. I've never seen that.
Yeah, interesting. Cannot figure that out, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine with me. It doesn't matter if it doesn't echo or anything. Yeah.
But I'm just checking out if I'm going to make sure that we're good with this.
There we go.
All cleared up?
Yeah, there's only one of me.
There you go.
Terrific. So anyway, yeah, so I always wanted to make music. I never, ever have wanted to do anything else. And in a way that's made my life easier, even though existing in the music business is not easy, always knowing what one wants to do is probably an easier path in life.
So did you get onto like learning music at an early age? I mean, any formal training, or it was by ear?
I had some formal training. My mother made me take piano lessons, which I did not enjoy. And I did not enjoy the teacher, but I did do that. And other than that, I have learned my lessons in the School of Hard Knocks.
What fun.
Yes, what fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are like maybe whether schools also have all the answers for everything, and there will be nothing like real world experience. And of course, I mean, not to say that schools don't have their value, but I think a good balance of the school world and the actual world, where things happen and you have to service things, there are deadlines, there's creative magic to be created, there are budgets at the same time, so it's like this whole balance between the music element and the business element of what's now called, of course, the music business, and you're actually on both sides, there's something that you have over the years really developed, and of course we'll talk about that a lot. So what is the early kind of music that you heard? What were your early influences?
Well, of course, I heard what my parents listened to, and my parents were pretty hip and trendy, and they listened to this, I'm from an older time, but they had a lot of show music in the house, which was interesting. I remember they had a collection on 78s of the musical South Pacific.
Okay.
And they had a lot of Harry Belafonte in the house, which was interesting. And they liked R&B music and pop music. So I listened to that. And then my favorite thing to do would be to jump in the car with my father and drive anywhere. We would, anywhere he wanted to go, any errands he needed to do, just so I could put on the radio and sing with the radio. Yes. So that was my biggest pleasure in life as a little girl. And I did it all the time. And I learned all the hit songs that were on top 40 radio in the 60s and 70s and got an education in music. And then, of course, when I was old enough to go to the record store myself and buy albums. I bought albums in those days, vinyl. Every penny I had, if it was allowance money or I had a job, every single penny went to buying the next album. And I would sit there in the record store and go through the record bin and look for the music. And I devoured it. And I'd come home and I had a turntable. It had a cassette player in it. It was like this all-in-one unit. And I put on my new record and was in heaven. So everything that my whole being was about music, even as a young girl. And of course, in New York City, you get a lot more freedom than in other places because you can walk everywhere. So I was able at a young age to walk myself to the record store and take a bus or take the train and buy what I liked or what I wanted to learn about.
So did you have a school band or something, or did you start playing, performing?
I did.
So what did you do? Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Because we all did that, right? It's like it's like rite of passage. It's like we all did that. So I sang in all the school plays, and I went to camp. I went to a sleepaway camp for 8 weeks every summer, and I would sing in camp. And I would stand on a chair in the dining room. I'm very small, and I would stand up on a chair, and they'd be cheering and screaming, and I'd sing. And so always. And then I formed a band, like you saying, in high school. I was about 16 and I formed a band with some guys older than me. There were a few grades above me. And we formed a band, and my next door neighbor where I grew up owned a bunch of bars. And so he had me come performing there. And then we started getting some bookings in the village, in Greenwich Village, and we went and played in some clubs there, and we were in high school. So we definitely did that. And then when I went to college, I moved to Tucson, Arizona, clear across the country. And I lasted for a minute in school, I have to say, because I joined a band and we were always on the road playing gigs. So, and I was 18 and we were making money. I was getting paid. So that was pretty exciting to already be a professional musician, getting paid and performing then. So that's basically how I ended up across the country and how I continued to make music. That's great.
Nice. Yeah. So, so when did you know that? So being an artist, is that what you set out to do?
Yes.
Where did the art and craft of songwriting start? Had it already begun? Or
yes,
then?
I was already writing songs in school. I was writing poetry and I was writing songs in high school. So it had already begun. Yes. And in the bands that I played in, I mostly did covers, but I did some originals that I wrote as well. Yes.
And how was it during that time? People being receptive to listening to, let's say, original music when you're playing in the bars and the cafes and the live venues and the tighter venues. Was it only about covers? What was the trend like that time?
I think we squeezed them in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they didn't notice. I think they were busy dancing and we squeezed in a few originals. And I think they didn't pay attention, that they weren't covers. Like it was just maybe a song they didn't know. Nobody complained about it. Yeah. So that was good. And I got to soothe, especially me, not my band members didn't really care much because they were not really writers like I was. So they put up with me because I wanted to do it. And the fans, and we had a big fan base because, if you're in a small town, you have a fan base. And we played we basically played 4 to 6 sets a night. So Monday on the weekdays we played 4 sets. We played 9 to 1. But on Fridays and Saturday nights, we played 6 sets, 9 to 3 in the morning. So our fans were coming all night to play and party and dance and drink, So yeah, so my original songs got familiar to them, I would say.
And what was the what kind of song were these? Any particular style, or were they open-ended?
Well, the type of music that I was interested in at that time was things like Fleetwood Mac, Heart, pop rock types of things, Pat Benatar. This was 1979, and that was the music of the time, Carole King. But the band that I joined was a heavy metal band. I know. I had replaced a male singer who I'm still friends with all these years later, an amazing male heavy metal singer. And I replaced him. It was kind of ridiculous. And I was singing big metal songs like Back in Black. And I'd be like, Back in Black, like that. And I'd be screaming. And so it was very funny. And I learned all those metal songs. And then I'd sneak in an original, and I'd sneak in, say, Stevie Nicks' song Dreams or Landslide, and I'd stick them in there. And so it was kind of a strange mix because, you know, I wanted to sing some real songs, not just be screaming all these metal songs through the whole set. But I did actually scream, you know, for, 6 sets a night.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. It was so funny.
Any videos? Have any of your friends?
I have recordings. I have recordings still. I don't have a video of that band anymore, but I do have a CD of us performing. Yes, I still have that. So that's very exciting. And I'm still in touch with some of the bandmates, including that ex-singer whose place I took. And the weirdest thing was that before me, my first cousin's husband sang in that band. Coincidentally, it was the weirdest coincidence, but he also had fronted that same band years before. So life is so strange like that, you know? So that was, but then I didn't last in that band long because about a year or so in, I quit the band, much to their anger because we had full bookings, and I moved to LA. I just up and moved to LA, and I came here to pursue it further. So I had $57 and only a trunk, like a camp trunk of clothing. I had nothing. And I quit that band and moved to Los Angeles. And that was around 1981.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's the time when I think the music and the music business was also settling in after the mid 70s. I think that was when things moved from New York towards the West Coast too, wasn't it?
Yes, I agree. And, you know, like the Whiskey A Go-Go, you know, we'd hang out there, and the Rainbow and the Roxy, and we'd play in all these nightclubs every night and on the Sunset Strip and around town. It was an amazing time. It was really wonderful. And those early 80s were really fun.
So that was just the passing of disco into the next.
Just the passing of disco. Exactly. Just the passing of disco. Exactly. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was super. And then I did performance art. So when I moved and got to have my own band that was from creation, my own passion was performance art. So I did really weird stuff like, well, in those days, I loved Kate Bush, who many Americans don't know, but she was a British avant-garde pop star, and Laurie Anderson I loved. And in these days, it would be comparable to Bjork, probably what I did, which was I had films and slides and actors in my shows, and I wrote all the songs, and I had a full band, but I also had visual going on with my work, and it was totally bizarre. And that's what I did here in LA.
What fun. But I think what better, I mean, there could be no better place than being in a place like LA. Then I cannot imagine what it was like. I mean, we've only heard stories and we see videos, and then of course to get it from like a first-hand experience is really something, you know.
Yeah.
Having been a part of that that time and the building blocks of what has become today.
Right, exactly. And I was totally part of that time, because if I didn't have a gig, I, even as a tiny little woman, would go out alone every night. I lived at the beach. I would drive all the way to Hollywood, and I would hang out in those clubs like it was my living room. I was that comfortable that I went alone. I knew everybody in the club. I knew the sound men. I knew the bartenders. I knew everybody. And I was not concerned to be out alone, hanging out with all the other people who were making music on the Sunset Strip. It was amazing time. It was so wonderful.
So, okay, so then, so I'm going to hop on to now some other part where how important is it to be in an ecosystem like that?
In those days, it was great. It was fun. It was creative. We were all young. We were hanging out. But I don't think it's necessary to be in that ecosystem, especially in this time of life where you can live anywhere, right? Look at Global Icon. Global Icon is everywhere. We can be everywhere and make music. We can be in our bedrooms, in our bathtubs. We can be outside on a patio, and we can be on the beach, and we can be anywhere on the street making music these days. And we can be in every small town, right? Every small town in the world. So I don't think it is that necessary anymore to be physically in California or New York City hanging out in the clubs. I don't think it's as necessary as it was then, because then we had no technology, right? We had to go drive somewhere or walk somewhere or get somewhere to interact with any of the powers that be.
So how does somebody today then break in? If suppose if you're not in the land of the magic networking, and where all this which lets the melting pot of film, visual art, music, and style, if you're not there, how does someone become a part of what's happening there?
Well, then now it's completely simple, because we have all this technology. We just sit here in the box and we interact with each other. We audition for Global Icon, right? We have all these shows in American Idol and The Voice and Pop Stars, which I wrote the hit song for. And I mean, there's so many avenues right now that we've never had. And I can have a band and I can live stream. And even before COVID, I could do this, right? Even this has nothing to do with COVID. It's actually improved during COVID because technology has improved to help us navigate, because we can't go out. So and also there are 8 million webinars these days during COVID. So COVID has actually helped us a bit in that sense. But even before then, we could live stream, we could get on Facebook, we could get on another platform, we can show our band to the entire world and our artistry. And we can connect with A&R people and managers and music supervisors and publishers. We can connect with everybody by sending an email, by getting, I've taught at a school for now 15 years on WebEx, and WebEx was the precursor to Zoom. And so I was already teaching virtually way before COVID. So there's so many opportunities for us to get our music out there. We just have to not be lazy, right, Ashish? I mean, if we're lazy, nothing happens for us. But if we're go-getters, the world is so open to us now, right? We can be look, I'm looking at your screen and it's showing me all the different countries of the world. We can
Absolutely.
be all these countries are right next door. Like, I teach a class and there's people in my class from Australia and Turkey and the UK and Germany, and they're all over, New Zealand. I mean, they're not just in America and Canada, they're everywhere. We can all come together from everywhere. It's awesome.
So it's just a matter of doing it. You got to do it.
Yeah, you just got to do it, right? If you see something, you have to seize it, right? I've always done that. I've always been like, oh, that's cool. How do I do that? How do I get involved in that? And that's what I think is key for everybody. It's like, don't just watch Global Icon, be part of it, audition for it.
Absolutely.
Right. You have to try.
No, absolutely. And I mean, that was the premise of this, because we saw, and we've been fortunate. I got an early kickstart out in the US, but when we set up a base in India, and of course we started partnering with other countries as the years went by, there's always been talent everywhere. Okay, every city has talent, every country has talent now, but there are some countries that have really developed this system for their music and arts and made it a successful business. So that there's longevity, there's livelihood, there's people are encouraged to take that up as a profession. but not all countries have been, let's say, successful in pioneering that aspect. So
Yes, the US, for one, the US is terrible. The US doesn't foster the arts at all. So for sure.
So we've seen now. So we've been fortunate to have partnered with like the Norwegian government for 7 years. They're very progressive and they operate in a particular way. But here's the thing: we've seen the hunger and drive that happens in a place like America, and there is, yes, there is a system in it, but it's like you said, it's actually very much dependent on yourself. And unless
Yes.
you're a go-getter, it's challenging to get in. You
Yes.
really have to know how to present yourself, or like you said, plant yourself somewhere or be around with people where things happen.
Yes. Because
So
if you look at Canada, Canada has amazing resources for
yes,
creatives. Yes, that's a country that really fosters and helps the creators.
correct. So not all countries do that.
No.
So that's what we thought, and we saw also, like coming from India, that India has a very robust system where movies and music, where that integration is like a deadly combination. So that's very successful, and it continues.
Yes, in India, amazing.
So
the Bollywood system is amazing.
Correct. But now what happens is, parallel to Bollywood, that system has never been, there have been attempts, there have been a lot of good attempts, there have been really good stalwarts and people, visionaries, but it hasn't scaled up to come to the level of Bollywood.
Right.
Similarly, in other countries, in Vietnam, it could be Dubai, there, the culture of local artists making their own music large enough to become at least that large where you can sustain yourselves, your livelihood, and everything doesn't have to be in the super mega successful only. There's a lot of area where you can still have a very successful career with fans who come after you, who are ready to pay for you. So as we interacted with artists over the decades, we found out that there is a void on how can that kind of collaboration happen faster. And it's not like your time passes by and you pass on and then maybe your grandkids get an avail of something. So we decided to take that on ourselves, and because we've been fortunate on both sides to have worked also and have a good network. So the Global Icon kind of came out from there. So you could be in Vietnam, you could be in a city in India, you could be in a city in China, in Japan, of course, in the US, in the UK, but everyone comes on a common platform to present themselves now. So that's where the Global Icon kind of got its seed from, and to make original music. That's when we reached out to you, and when we started this conversation, because the fun we thought was that there are a lot of talent shows and they do a good job. So for us, it was to do what can we do, what we felt the need to do, and what mattered to us, and to make a sustainable beyond the show. So we kind of say that Global Icon begins where a lot of other shows end, and so because with someone with your expertise and experience, that you have had now on both sides, on how the creation of music, and to understand the nuances of making music successful in placements, in sync, and the music having a value so that the creators can make a livelihood by just doing music.
Yeah.
So
and it can be done.
Exactly. So that's what. So with the Global Icon, the idea was that you may be a lovely singer, okay, or have a personality, okay, and you sing in a particular way, but maybe you're not a songwriter at heart, or you don't have the talent to be a songwriter. Or you could be somebody who has the talent to do it all yourself, and that's fine. The idea is that the team with the Global Icon will work with you to help you create the music that you think you can stand for and present it to the world. That's what it's all about. So if you want to do your music yourself, present it yourself. You want help? There's a lot of help. You want to collaborate with someone? You can collaborate with someone. So it's very much like the music business itself today. So for you, where did that transition happen? Now you're in LA, you're doing the clubs, you've started making friends, networking, performing. So where did the arc start changing to focusing more on songwriting than being the artist? Or it was to be the artist, or it didn't matter?
No, the arc changed instantaneously because I told the story because I had a friend in 1987. So now I've been in LA, right, for 6 years, then my seventh year in LA. And I had a friend who was a film director, and he had just gotten his first major feature, and it was a film called Tapeheads. And it was a $25 million film in 1987. I mean, it was major. And he had starring in this film John Cusack and Tim Robbins. It was their first film ever. And then and then he had starring in this film Sam Moore from the group Sam and Dave, the famous soul singer. And he had Junior Walker from Junior Walker of the All Stars. And Junior and Sam played a group called the Swanky Modes in this film. And my friend needed music for them to sing. And my friend knew what I did as a performance artist with my weird music because he created the films and slideshows that I did used. He was the director and I was the producer on these films that were part of my weird act. So he totally knew I only wrote weird music. He knew I did not write soul music, R&B music, pop music. Everything was weird. But he knew also, like you were just saying, that I had a network of friends. I had everyone I know was a musician and is a musician now and knew then. So he knew that I had connection to some great musicians. So he asked me to bring him some music from my friends. And what I did was instead, I grabbed my writing partner, and he's still my writing partner. We're 40 years as writing partners.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, it's wonderful. Larry Treadwell is his name. And I grabbed Larry and I said, let's try this. Let's write something for this. So we went, he was more astute at urban R&B, urban music. He knew that a little bit. He's older than me, and he knew that. I was pretty, except for when I was a kid in the car with my dad, I really hadn't forayed into making this kind of soul music. So I went and listened to a gazillion records, and I grabbed Larry, and Larry and I wrote a song, and I submitted it under a pseudonym to that director, to my friend, because he never would have listened to it from me. And I said, hey, my friend wrote this and blah, blah, blah. And I got the song in the movie.
Wow.
I know. And it's the first song when you see this group, the Swanky Modes, it's the first song you hear. And that was my first cut with outside artists besides myself, my first sync. And my world changed, and I became a songwriter for others at that moment. And that's really how the trajectory changed. I was still making my performance art. I was still gigging, still had my band, but the world expanded. Do you know what I'm saying? I just paid attention and followed the moment.
Okay.
And seized it. And so when I seized that moment, I realized I had a talent to write other styles of music and produce other styles of music, not just what I had been doing for myself for all those years. And then in 1990, that same director had another movie. And that one, Fran Drescher and Rosie O'Donnell star in their first movie. And again, John and Tim were in it. And in this movie, Sam from Sam and Dave, Sam Moore again was involved, except that this time he sang a theme song for Fran Drescher's character, which I wrote. And this time I didn't have to submit it. I actually got asked to write the song, and I produced it. And it was my first major production, not just songwriting, but I got to produce Sam, produce the record. And this ended up in that movie. And in that same year, I had been in New York City, back in New York, because Nile Rodgers had invited me to work with him. And that happened because my sister told Nile she would go out with him if he helped me. So, because they were friends and Nile adored her. And so she said, okay, well, I'll go out with you if you help my sister. And he did. And he invited me back to New York to shadow him. And so I did that for a few years, and he connected me with some friends and his assistant. And together we wrote a song that became a huge hit and was one of the first hip hop songs ever, with singing. Misha Paris was a British soul singer, and Eric B. and Rakim, who have just celebrated their 35th year of being rappers in the business, they rapped on it. So it was rapping and singing, one of the first hip hop songs ever, released in 1990, and it was a hit. And all of a sudden, I got a publishing deal. And all of a sudden, I was this pop R&B writer, mostly R&B, soul music, Black music. Everything I was getting recorded was Black music. So this is weird because I'm like Bjork, right? And so when I was signed to that publishing deal, it was Island Music, and I was signed there by Lionel Conway, who's a very famous music publisher. About 4 months into my deal, I said to Lionel, so Lionel, you've never mentioned my artist project, what you think of my artist project. And Lionel said, yes, when I think of you, I think of R&B. And he walked away. Because I, of course, presented him with all my weird performance art on that cassette.
Sure.
And now he's like, I think of R&B. So now I'm an R&B writer. And that's basically what happened, right? I to no fault of my own, it just became what I did.
Okay.
It's crazy. And then at the publishing company, they would introduce me to other writers to collaborate and co-write. And I was always introduced as an R&B writer. I was never introduced as the artist I was or the performance music that I made. I was just this pop R&B writer, and I was being set up with all these people to co-write. It was crazy stuff. I had no idea what was going on.
Imagine.
But I learned quickly. But
Correct. And you know what is in the Global Icon, one of the things we used to do a blind test, not like a test. We were like presenting artists and songwriters, musicians from all over the world to like companies, in the US for the past few years. And once we started playing the music, the executives would ask us, or the A&R guys would ask us, oh, where's this rapper from? It sounds like he's from Atlanta. This girl she's got a Nashville kind of a sound. And, we would hear like feedback like this, and none of them were American.
Ah, neat.
So, you know what? And so that got me thinking, and something that I think I had a gut for, but we never really took any steps towards it or took an action towards it. And I just slept over it, and because it's happened a few times, and we said that, you know what, we are actually just prejudiced by our eyes. And sometimes like you said, you get stuck or typecast maybe
Yes.
With some impression that we have in our mind of somebody.
Yes.
And we get so influenced visually. So a big part of there's a surprise element again in the Global Icon, which tackles this aspect where the audience, and the jury will just not know, where the talent is from for some time, because you already have such a bouquet of talent, like you said, you are writing songs which are way beyond just like one style, so must be given an opportunity to present yourself than to be, before you begin, you are like, okay, this is your compartment, and
yes.
then you write in this little rectangle box,
Yes,
and
exactly.
yeah, but people don't know.
I remember when I came into my publisher and I had made a song like Bon Jovi. And I had, produced it, and they were shocked. I wrote it alone and produced it alone. I mean, I had I had hired musicians, but I mean, I had done that, and they were shocked. They were like, we've never heard you do anything like this. Well, I felt like doing it. So, I mean, yeah, I just felt like morphing and trying something else. So I think that, yeah, we can all branch out of our styles and our comfort zones. It's super, super creative.
So for you, where does the song start, or does it start anywhere? Does it start with chord changes? Does it start with melodies, lyrics?
Well, if I'm writing alone, a lot of times it starts all together. I hear melody, I hear some lyric, I'll pull out a guitar, or I'll pull out a little keyboard, and I'll find the chords. But when I write with my main collaborator, it's very strange because he's a virtuoso musician. He can play everything. His main instrument is guitar and bass, but he plays absolutely anything you put in his hand and has perfect pitch. And he's just the quintessential musician, but he wants to write the lyric first. So it's a bizarre phenomenon. And we fought about it for 26 years. And finally, I've given in now. So mostly when I write with him, which is very often, we write the lyric first because he doesn't get inspired to make the music until there's a lyric. So when we have a third or four writers coming, we do this as well. And for a lot of them, it's very foreign, but the lyric really comes out better this way because the lyric is the hardest part. And the lyric becomes really special if you write it first and have no parameters to have to fit in. And of course, at this point in our careers, I mean, we're professionals, the lyrics make sense. I mean, they're not like strange and they rhyme and they're not, so they have a structure, but we're not confined to any specific meter or melody. And then usually we sing. So usually after the lyric is done, we just sing and we create the melody, no chords, nothing. The thing we end up doing last is actually putting the chords to the song. So it's kind of an unusual way to write. And that's how I write with him. But with other people, I'll write anyway. I'll only write from scratch, except for a few special people that I write with. We all just write from nothing. And whatever comes first, if it's some melody, if it's someone has a chord change idea, someone has a lyric idea, a title, however, it can work anyway. It doesn't matter to me what comes first at all. Yeah, but to my partner, it matters what comes first. He really just has trouble writing music first, even though he's a musician. So it's very strange.
So for people who are like, let's say, into their entry years of songwriting and becoming artists, what would you say if you had to share that? Is there a formula or a method to writing songs, or there's an instinct that you develop? Is it a combination of all of the above? What is more important than the other for you?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think for me, it's a combination of importance of everything, right? Now, the concept of writing a lyric first when you're working with someone who's new is actually kind of nice, because a lot of times they have a concept of what they want to write about, thoughts in their heart and soul and mind, but not as much capability of making the music part. So sometimes that is a little fun to write when you write with someone who's very new. Mm-hmm. But I think both is important. I think the lyric is the hardest part. And when I teach, most of my students have better melodies than lyrics. Mm-hmm. There's definitely song structure that's involved. I mean, most songs are verse, pre-chorus, chorus. In the old days, we called it a B section, verse, B section, chorus. I mean, verse, B section, chorus, then there's a bridge, then there's maybe a breakdown, then there's a chorus again, maybe there's an outro and a vamp. But the songs do have structure. I mean, and yes, like you're saying, they're in my DNA, the song structure. Some songs have no chorus and they just have one hook line. That's the hit chorus and the big hook. So there are different song structures. I think the song writes itself sometimes. The song dictates what it wants to be. It's kind of hard sometimes to move the song to be something it doesn't want to be when you start it. And as you get experience, you learn to go with that flow. You learn to feel it, and you learn to let the song help write itself, as we also, the writers, do. And there's a little divine inspiration perhaps involved when it all comes together. Mm-hmm. And it's all important. All parts of it are so important. The production is so important because it's not like in the 1920s where you can play a song at a piano and get someone to record it and get a big band to play it and get an arranger to arrange it. Of course, it doesn't work like that anymore. So now the production becomes very important as well.
So now where it comes to the aspect of people getting credited, talent getting credited for songwriters, and as it is defined by, various countries who a songwriter is, how has that evolved, and who all would you deem as songwriters in the process, and why?
Okay, well, I have a very, very certain, strict idea of this, and it is what I teach and what I pass on to everyone. First of all, I only believe in equal splits. So I don't believe in giving $2 to the pizza guy and $6 to the dog, 6% to the dog walker and, the momager who's in the room. I don't believe in that. I believe we all write in equal splits. I also believe that we do not have anyone in the room writing who is not a writer. So if I write with a child, the mom has to sit outside the door. No one can be in the room, be it virtual or be it physical, who is not part of the writing equation. I believe in signing those split sheets before you write the song so that everyone knows who are the writers involved that are going to be in the room, and we split it in equal shares. I do not believe in counting notes, counting lyric word lines, words, chords, but people do that, and it's insane because I believe that, look, Ashish, if you and I are in the room and we're writing a song, if you were having a discussion, this discussion is contributing to the song.
Sure.
So even if you're brand new and maybe you don't contribute much to the actual writing of this song, you have contributed because it's your story and it's our conversation, and everything is equal when we're in the room. And that's really important to me. So also, I believe that if the music comes first, then the music is part of the writing equation. So if someone gives me, which I don't write to tracks, but let's say I did, if somebody gives me a track, if somebody gives me a beat to write to,
Sure.
and that inspires me to write to that piece of music, then that person who gave that to me is an equal songwriter. But if I write the song myself, be it on a guitar, be it sing it to you a cappella with no accompaniment or on piano, just the melody and the lyric, the song is done. Now, if I hire you to make beats and to work on the arrangement and production, then you are not a writer. You are a producer, an arranger, and I will pay you. Of course, I am the producer, so I'm not hiring producers, but were I, because a lot of my students and friends hire producers,
Sure.
And I'm always telling them, don't give them a percentage of the writer's share and don't give them a piece of the publishing because they are not writers on the songs. The song is written and you can have 8,000 arrangements for the same song. Those are arrangements. That's not writing. But again, if the music comes first and that's what I'm inspired by and I'm writing to, then of course that person is the songwriter.
So at what point did you start getting into this and make your discipline of working like this? How long did it take you?
And well, you mean to not write to tracks? That discipline?
No, the discipline of, like you said, that who stays in the room, that concept, it's because it's particular, like what you're saying, only those who are going to be active contributors are going to be present in this space now. With respect to what I mean is these systems that you now have.
We learned these things from the School of Hard Knocks.
Okay.
Right. When we're screwed, when we get screwed and everything goes awry, then we go, okay, that was really not a good idea to let the pizza guy hang out in the writing session, right? Because now he's running for his piece of the work, right? Sure. He wants his piece of that pizza pie. And so, yeah, so we learn these things as we go along. Don't have anyone in the room who's not writing. Once I had a mom in the room and all of a sudden it turns out she gave herself a piece of the writing. I didn't think she was the writer. Then I was like, that's it. No, mom's in here. Nobody in this room. No one walks in. This is just sacred for the writers. Yeah. You learn by trial and error. I mean, I actually had a huge hit song where there was a third writer in the room who was all the way in the corner playing on an acoustic guitar, noodling away, didn't pay attention to me and my other co-writer writing the song, did not pay attention at all. At the end of that session, the next day he wrote, the other writer, not me, the other writer, and said, I don't like that song at all. It sucks. Okay. Well, we loved the song, the two of us, and finished the song. And I pitched the song, and it ended up being a #1 song. What did the writer in the back of the room do? Ashish. He wanted his share. Okay. He didn't contribute at all to the song. We even said to him, how about we give you 1/3 of the money, but you take your name off it because you didn't write the song. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, no, no, no. Well, what did I learn in that room? Mm-hmm. I learned that's never going to happen again, because really what should have happened was we both, the two of us who wrote the song, should have said to the one who didn't write the song right then and there, you know, you don't like the song and you didn't contribute anything, and we think you shouldn't be involved in this song, right? But we didn't, because that's not what songwriters do, because you never write a song and think it will be a hit. You're just sitting there writing a song. You're just making music. That's what we do. We just write songs. We don't ever sit there and think, oh yeah, this is the one that's going to be the big hit. And so I learned from that moment that is never going to happen again. The next time that happens, in the room, at the moment, because of course, by the time we addressed the situation, the song was a hit. And of course, that third writer who wrote nothing wanted his piece because he was in the room, right? Yes. Yeah. And so in that world of, he was in the room. So there you go. But maybe if we had nipped that originally and went, right, because if that weren't the case with me, if the situation were reversed, I would say to those writers, I didn't write anything on that song. It's your song. I would never take a share of that because I have some integrity and I would never do that. But it would have had to have been done right there. You know what I mean? After the fact, and something is a hit, it's a little too late to be going, you know, you really didn't write that song.
There's no way to change it then.
No, exactly. So that was a priceless lesson that I can teach everyone else. Mm-hmm. If someone's in the room and they're not contributing and don't like the song, tell them, then maybe immediately you just mention it. Or unfortunately, you already signed your split sheet and they are in the room, and that's just how it goes.
So now what happens is, like, suppose two people, you and your writing partner have come up with the song and you've got it up to a point and you're happy with it, but you think that you would like to bring on someone else to collaborate and probably bring it to the finishing line. How would you offer, and what kind of split would you offer this person that you would invite to a song that, let's say, is 75% complete?
Okay, that's a great question. And actually that happened to me with my Nick Carter hit.
Oh,
so
wow.
My Nick Carter hit has happened like that. I had the song completely written. Mm-hmm. And so I brought it to, well, that's another story, because I actually wrote that song to a track, and the people the track, they hated it. The songwriters hated it so much. And I said, I'm taking my melody and lyric back. And they said, we don't care. We hate it. It's awful. And I'm like, okay. So then I was with another writing partner who one day said to me, do you have anything around you haven't finished? And I said, yeah, actually. And I played him on the acoustic guitar this song. He had never heard the track. He never, ever heard the original track that I had written with. And I played it for him. And he said, you know, I have some ideas for this. And so he added the bridge. There was no real bridge yet. And he changed a couple of things in the pre-chorus. But other than that, the song was done. He got an equal share because it's my fault. Like, if I could have finished that song and made it as fabulous as it could be, then I should have done that. But I shared it with somebody, even though it was 75% done.
So how much would you have? What was the kind of split?
50-50. I split it equally.
50. Okay, so you wouldn't do a 75-25.
No, never, because I believe that, look, if I wrote, even if, let's say, two of us, my regular writing partner and I wrote a song like you're saying, and it was 75% completed, and I went, you know, Ashish, we just can't make this as great as it could be, right? We just can't. It's just missing something. Hey, there's two of us, and two of us couldn't fix it. That's our fault. Maybe we should have waited 10 years till we could fix it, but instead we brought it to you. And whatever you added, we all agreed made the song great.
Got it.
So you get an equal share, because that's not fair. I mean, I believe that you're an equal writer. Your contribution is what brought the song to life and whatever it was lacking. So I would never give you a smaller share. Does that make sense?
Totally. So I'm going to flip one question on you. Now everybody wants a hit. That's such a famous line, right? It's not mine. But you can get called to get a song for like probably a TV series that they bring you in, or coming up for an artist. Everybody is looking for a hit, right? How do you address that? Or when you, how often do you hear that?
Oh, all the time. But what's that? I mean, what's a hit? I mean, who knows what a hit is? You know, you write a song.
Define it. So what is it to you? When so yeah. So how
You mean
do you
before it's a hit on the charts and the money comes? Like what's just
No.
when you write it?
No, just when somebody comes and say that we got to make a hit.
I have no idea what they're asking me for. I'm just going to
Okay.
send them songs I like. You know, right? How first of all, songwriters are the worst judges of their own songs, right? Like I have one song. People always ask you this when you're a songwriter and you're in the meeting. They always ask you, play me something that no one likes. Play me something that's never been cut. Play me something that you love, that you personally love, that's never been cut. They always ask you this. And I always, for the last 25 years, have played the same song, which, as I found out later, my co-writer has played the same song as well. Just coincidentally, isn't that crazy? We both love this song. It made us cry when we wrote it. And every single time, in every single meeting, the person I'm playing that song to will do this. They'll go, "Oh, that was really nice. What else do you have?" Every time. So I think that we as songwriters are not good judges of what are hits from our own songs, and everything is subjective, isn't it? Like, you know, everybody likes different stuff. So we just try to write, me in particular, I just try to write a song I love, that's special to me. And do I consider its commerciality? Yeah, because I write commercial songs. I mean, that's my job. But at the same point.
So what is it, if I may just interject, what is commerciality?
What is commerciality is anything becomes commercial once it makes money. So, right? So I'm writing songs for movies and TV and pitching them for artists and getting them on the radio. And I'm always hoping that there's a factor in the song that will be accepted worldwide, that will touch people, that will make it commercials because people want to use it and sync it and record it as an artist. So I'm hoping that that is what it will become commercial. And when I review songs, like, you know, one of the schools I teach at, there actually is, you have to judge the songs on their commercial viability. To me, everything is commercially viable. No songs. There's no song.
How do you, correct. So how do you slice out that, oh, this will be commercial, this is not going to be commercial?
I don't personally. I'm sorry, I don't. And that's what I write to my students as well. Yes, of course, this has potential. Anything can be commercially viable. Absolutely anything, right? If the public takes to it and it gets an opportunity, right?
So who decides, and how does one know, you know, that the public is going to take to this?
You don't know until they do. And also, as we know, right, if you have a great radio plugger who's going to plug that song to the radio stations and the DJs, eventually you start liking it, right? Like, how many times have you listened to the radio and hated a song, and then after they've played it 45 times, you start kind of going, oh, it's not bad, right? Familiarity. You know, you get used to it and it gets drummed down your throat and you just like go, yeah, okay. I mean, right, don't you think? I don't know. So much of it is that what gets promoted.
Cool. So I guess it's a lethal combination of both the sides.
Yeah.
Where sure. And
yeah, I mean, of course, the song has to be recorded well, and that's not subjective. The concept of what one likes, that's very subjective, right? But if the vocals are out of tune and out of time, and the instruments are out of tune and out of time, that is not subjective,
Yeah.
right? That is a given, and that's going to hinder the commercial possibilities of one's music,
Sure.
right? Yeah, but after that, I mean, it's a crapshoot. Yeah.
No, but this is, I mean, this is great. I mean, I think because it's for those who are going to listen to this and going to become part of the series, and also to get the word out, with what you've done and how you really been at it. Look at you. You're like as passionate as I can see as that young schoolgirl who just started out. Look at that smile. I mean, it's just so infectious. I think it's so lovely.
Hey.
Where, because that's what makes, and that's what drives us to keep like going after it. So
Yeah, we have to go after it. I'm hungry too. I don't sit there and think, oh, I did all this stuff. I never think about that. I think, oh, I love my new song, just like all my friends do and all my students do. We all love our new song, and we're so excited to play it for somebody. And if somebody wants to use it and cut it, oh my God, right? If you get the single, every star has aligned. Every star, every time. It's never old. It's always like, oh my God,
right.
It's incredible. If you hear your song on the radio or watch TV or in a theater and you hear your song, I mean, it's crazy. It's just every time. Yeah, it never gets old. It's so exciting. And it's much harder to sustain the career, right, Ashish?
Sure.
It's much harder than having that first cut or that first sync or that first. It's so much harder. I've been doing it 41 years, and to sustain this, that is much harder,
Wow.
Yeah, that's the key. I think that's the key. So if you're not excited and one doesn't love it, then one can't sustain it and survive in this crazy business.
Sure.
This is a crazy place.
No, and no, I think it will be, I mean, firstly, again, it's, we are so happy and delighted to have you as part of the team, because we really wanted to stitch together like a little community of like-minded creators and people who will see that there's value created here for people coming from all over the world. Now it's not region or geography centric, so they would be collaborators from different countries who are talented, but this would be like the platform where this is actually truly the world is your stage. That's what we are here to present. And be yourself. You're not going to be telling people who they should be and how they should become. Yeah, I mean, if they have questions, any things that we can provide from the body and the network that we have, of course, we will pull out the best tricks of the trade. But the fun is also to explore the discovery and find out what people, music makers all across the world have to say and how they would like to be presented and represented. Instead of telling somebody dress like this, behave like that, dance like this, if they want that, that will be provided. But if they come with their own personality, our job is to just light it up and just present them.
Oh yeah, and of course, because it's global, I mean, every country has influences in their music that we don't have in another country, and it's so exciting to be exposed to that, right? Because everybody's listening to music, some of the same music, but some of the music is different, right? Like if you're in India and you love Bollywood and Bollywood music, we don't get a lot of that here. So the combination of that with an American, the juxtaposition of both is amazing. And indigenous music in every country, all countries have some kind of indigenous music. And it would be so cool if the global icon, if they bring that when they come perform their music, if they, incorporate that, that's beyond cool.
Correct. So we're waiting to be surprised. And, and I would say like this is just let's say the part one of a series of conversations with you, because there's so much to discuss. And of course, through the year and through the season, as we come to the point of maturity and really mount it up, this will continue. So this is by no means the end of this interview. This is just the beginning. And I think
thank
you,
you, Ashish.
I think you're setting up
I
this
just
thing.
want to make a shout out because I see in the chat my friend and student Shake is here, and also my student Mary is here. So they popped in, and that's very exciting because they are amazingly talented people. So I just
Lovely.
wanted to say hi that I see them here jumping in on the Zoom.
What fun.
They say my name, but they're actually them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's also because like how you've collaborated in the I mean, the fancy word is development of an artist or contributing to their early, a part of their career, like you've done with Kesha and others.
Yeah,
You know,
Kesha and Joelle James, who won a Grammy
yeah,
last year for Boot Up. I started writing with her when she was 11. And
that's
of course,
amazing.
Kesha I diapered practically and took care of him. And wrote a million songs with her. And there have been so many others. One person in our class, actually, Bryce, who's doing really well. I started writing with her when she was 11. And I've written with so many Disney and Nickelodeon kids, who are now adults, but when they were kids for movies and yeah, and adults too who were just starting out who've ended up doing amazing things. So many people. I love writing with new people, actually. If I have time to do it, it's really fun.
How long does it take for you? Like, is there a pattern that how long would or should a song take for you to from start to finish?
Well, yeah, I mean, on average, I would say the song takes 3 to 5 hours, right? It might be in one session, it might be over 2 sessions, but I try to make it one session and hold in the non-COVID days everyone hostage in the room that they cannot leave till the song is done.
Nice.
So I really try to keep that so the song gets done, because sometimes you never get back together and that's really disappointing. But it takes me about 100 hours to produce them. So it only takes a few hours to write them, but to produce them is a very lengthy process between mixing and mastering and making them sound amazing and recording all the instruments and the vocals and the tuning and the timing and all of that. But that's my favorite part, so it doesn't matter. I love producing and arranging and being in the studio, but definitely it's a longer process than the actual writing of the song. And I'm not a big rewriter, although I do encourage my students to rewrite a lot. I have kind of learned to police myself because, as you were discussing early on and mentioning deadlines, I most often work on deadlines. So I'm mostly given a deadline and I have to finish the song in a specific amount of time, and I have no time and I have to not just write the song. I mean, I have to write it, produce it, arrange it, mix it, master it, deliver it, make, stems of it and alternative mixes of it and everything. And sometimes I'll have to do like 10 songs in a few weeks. And so because of that, I have learned to police myself really quickly. So if I'm saying today is as beautiful as a blue sky, okay, that is really ugly. That is really cliche. I can police that in a second, whereas I see my students have more trouble policing that. They need someone to tell them, that's really nice, but can you give us a better metaphor? Because we've heard that too many times. But I've learned how now to get rid of that. And when I work with my writing partner, we've learned quickly to go, no, this, change this. We've learned to do it fast because we don't have any time. So
do you work with them? Do you have like dummy lyrics much, or do you actually really get down to chiseling out what it's got to make to the finishing line?
But I chisel it out fast. I don't have dummy lyrics, hardly ever. Okay. Yeah, almost never, because I don't have time. And in a way, it's good that I have no time, because it just forces you to really buckle down and open your soul and your heart and open your mind and just, focus and make something that's beautiful in a short amount of time. Yeah, and the same for the music, the same for the production. There's just, for me, I don't have the liberty of a lot of time usually. And even when I write with an artist, like I have a single out right now with one of my favorites, Jonathan Butler, he's probably my favorite person to write with. Besides,
you collaborated with Jonathan for many years now.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have 20 years. And so we have a new single out. He's so inspiring. But usually when Jonathan comes to me, he's in a rush, because he has a deadline himself. Like he's touring a lot, so he doesn't have time to write a lot. So sometimes he only has a minute to write. And he's like, he wants to write this second today. And I'm like, why didn't you ask me yesterday? I'm booked now. He needs to do it now. And he doesn't have a lot of time. He needs to submit it. He needs to finish it, record it. So when I write with him, it's the same kind of thing, is that, I'm writing from his voice. Then I'm writing the lyrics from his voice, and I have to police it quickly. No, he would not say that. Little girly me would say that, but he's not going to say that. How do I police that in his voice? So I have to do it, so a lot of times I'll write with an artist who has time constraints that it has to be done. It's exciting, actually, it's quite a challenge.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's quite
yes.
And to write in someone else's voice is really amazing as well. That's really creative. Like someone would think that's really confining, but it's not. It's so creative to not be the one who's going to sing it and write that. You really have to know someone. You have to.
Excellent. So we're coming to the conclusion of the first one in the series with you. As you can see, there's so much more that we can and we shall speak about and share. But thank you so much for this. I want to just ask if anybody has any questions for those who are attending today. And of course, this interview is going to be put up online in a couple of days on the Global Icon YouTube channel, and we will send the link out for that. But let's see if anybody has any questions so far, or just want to add something. So cool. I think we're good. But thank you for this first one, and it's great to catch up. And
thank you, Ashish. Thank you for your time.
Really. Okay, there's a question by Jenny. Do you produce using session musicians or virtual instruments?
Oh, cool, Jenny. Great question. So both. So I do use real live musicians, guitar players, bass players. It depends on the genre of the song. You know what I mean? So if it's a dance song like EDM, I probably am using more virtual instruments. But I'm still incorporating some live instruments because I like to have a live guitar sometimes on an EDM song. Even on a hip hop song, I like some real guitar, some real bass. So it really varies. If it's a country song, then it's all real instruments. It's not virtual. I mean, in these days and age, country has some virtual instruments in it, so I might add some synth a little bit. But I'm using like pedal steel players and fiddle players and piano players and real drummer and real musicians. And the same in a singer-songwriter song. In a singer-songwriter genre, if the artist, I'm definitely using real drums and real musicians and background singers. So it so varies depending on the genre and what the song wants, right? Like we were talking about the songwriting itself. It's like what the song wants. So the song tells you a lot of times what it wants. When you're using horns, you really want to use real horns. Fake horns, they only sound good if they're meant to be cheesy. If it's a dance song and they're actually meant to sound a little cheesy, then it's cool. But if they're meant to sound real, then you really don't want to do that. And the same with if you're using strings. If you're making a beautiful ballad that has amazingly beautiful strings in it, you want a violin player and a cello player and a viola player, and you want to hire some real musicians. You don't want to fake that with a keyboard because it just isn't authentic and it just doesn't do it. But if it's a dance song, you can add virtual strings. It's totally cool. So yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that helps, Jenny. It totally varies. And she wrote, "Oh, I've gotten exactly that feedback on fake horns and listening sounds." Awesome. Yeah, that's so great. Awesome. Yeah, fake horns, we just haven't found a way to make them sound really. You know what the funny thing about horns is? That horns are usually not tuned perfectly. And that's what creates the spread of the horns. And when the horns are virtual, sometimes they're tuned so well that you don't get the spread and they don't sound natural. It's really a phenomenon of the horns. The human aspect of someone actually playing a horn. Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. Thanks for asking that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I'd
good.
love to have real musicians in the studio. That's the most amazing thing. It's so wonderful.
Great. So thanks everyone for being here today. This is the Michèle Vice-Maslin, Emmy Award-winning songwriter and producer, and continues to delight us with the lovely music that she makes and with her collaborators. So this will be the first of many conversations that we would have like this. And of course, by the time Global Icon, takes off, you will see her magic and what she brings to the table and the next set of music that's actually going to be made on the show. So we are really, really, really excited about that. So thanks again, Michèle. Congrats on your continued success.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be part of this. It's going to be so great.
No, really, so are we. We're really, really glad that you're part of the Global Icon because what you're bringing to the table, that kind of experience and comfort level for to create that environment where music is going to be created, and that's what we want to do: make magic, and help. Facilitate the process to make magic. So it's looking forward to it, really.
Yeah, because it's not about us. It's about what they bring, and we're just here to foster that.
Great. So do check out theglobalicon.com. It's spelled IKON, theglobalicon.com. And of course, do check out Michèle's work and all the lovely songs that they are out. Check out her site, see all that she's doing, and the classes that, for those who are aspirants and otherwise, want to hone your skill sets in songwriting and production and beyond. Michèle has wonderful courses and classes that you can find out. So do check her out. And till next time, Michèle, thanks so much for today.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.